Anyway, well,
Okay, 7 o'clock. So I'm going to call the September 17th meeting of Woodstock Town Board, business meeting to order. First order of business is to stand and pledge the flag. The flag of the flag of the United States of America, is to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, announcements, story, as announcements,
Yeah, I'll see this is, it's a big movement going on. Anyway, so yes, Laura Ricky, the zoning revision committee, it has been working on STRs, as people know. And we thought, well, we have a committee of 3 that is now a committee of 4. We know what we all think about STRs, but we want to make sure we know what the community thinks about STRs. So we do have an STR survey. It should be ready to go out the end of September. We're going to give people a month to fill it out. It has about a dozen questions. How you feel about owner occupied, how you feel about non-owner occupied. Are things too strict? Are things too loose? So we want to make sure that as we proceed with our deliberations, that we know what the people of Woodstock have on their minds. So expect an STR survey. It'll be known. We'll make sure it goes on the town website when it's ready. We'll make sure it's on the town Facebook page when it's ready. We're looking to spread the word through social media. So you won't be getting a postcard at home, but in any event, STR survey coming soon.
Thank you, Laura. So I'm going to jump to resolutions, run through those, and then we have a presentation on the youth center. Be resolved to accept the minutes for meetings held on July 23rd, August 20th, and September 10th, 2024.
Second.
Discussion.
Discuss.
The July 23rd meeting, I noticed that the resolution 137, 2024 authorized payment of vouchers lists 3 vouchers. It's if there one of those is not included in those, I will give you that number and.
Okay.
have the minutes.
I think Lynn did those meetings.
Okay, yeah, I just noticed that it's there was 2 and this has 3, so I'll send it.
So it's one too many, you're saying?
I believe so.
Okay. All in favor, that adjustment? Be resolved to accept the town clerk's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to authorize payment of vouchers in the amount of $378,695.43.
Second for discussion. Discussion.
Yes.
Voucher 105525, which I reviewed for $2,775 for Vandewater and Associates. I'd like to pull that voucher out. That voucher is for legal work on dismissing the Amy lawsuit. It took place at the same time that you wrote to the Attorney General telling her that you needed to be added to the lawsuit that has already been settled. This is a waste of taxpayer dollars, and you shouldn't be doing one thing with one hand and exactly the opposite thing with the other hand. I'd like to remove that voucher from the voucher discussion.
Second that.
Anyone, all in favor of removing the
Well,
voucher?
should we discuss this?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to know your position on it.
I'm going to vote against not moving it. The attorney's done the work. I think it's bad form to be hiring people to do work and then not pay them. And the letter to the Attorney General has no bearing on this lawsuit. Any other questions? To remove, nay,
Aye.
okay, to pay the vouchers, aye.
Aye.
Be resolved to authorize transfers.
That was 9 to pay the vouchers? All the vouchers minus the one that we and I.
I voted to remove a voucher.
And I seconded that.
When it doesn't go through, I'm not going to vote no, simply because of one voucher. I lost that vote. I think that should be pulled out, but I'm voting yes.
Thank you.
Fine, I'm just getting clarification, that's all.
Be it resolved to authorize transfers to transfer sheet.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to accept the resignation of Alice Tosky from the Woodstock Cemetery to be effective September 1st, 2024. We further resolved to thank Alice for her service.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to accept the retirement of Pamela Boyle as town of Woodstock bookkeeper effective September 28th, 2024. And be it further resolved to thank Pamela for her many years, for 25 years of service.
Second.
All in favor?
And I would like to really underscore, thank Pam, she has been fabulous. She's been fabulous. She's right there on the money, literally speaking. She's been right on the money, all the time. And I appreciate what she's done for the budget each year, what she does for the monthly, bills, everything.
I'll save my comments for the retirement party, but Pam will be sorely missed. But not totally. It resolved to hire Pam O'Donnell as part-time bookkeeper at a rate of $39.32 an hour effective September 30th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And it resolves to the Woodstock Town Order versus Kyle W. Barnett Esquire, law firm Vanderwater LLP to negotiate signed settlement with CVS Wood Realty LLC, CO CVS Pharmacy number 03102-01, located at 60 Mill Hill Road, Woodstock, New York, for the 2023 and 2024 assessments as outlined in the attached documents.
So the second, but what you talk about?
So, you know, people have two avenues to talk about their assessments. They can go to grievance day, which they chose not to do, or they can file a small claim report, which they did. And, you know, typically, let that out of the bed. Typically, if somebody comes in and has, you know, any merit to it, we'll get some reduction. The attached document that you'll see, there was no reduction for 23, but for 24, there was a reduction in the neighborhood, 112 on the property. So, any other questions? All in favor? Okay, and then we do have, at the end of the meeting, you can chat about that resolution. With that, I am going to hand it over to Ben and the task force, and we're going to go over to the side to enjoy the show.
Thank you, Bill. First, I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm a member of the Youth Center Task Force. So our role is really to present to the town what we think you all, town people, want to see for the evolution of the space that we are in. The Youth Center, as well as the entire annual meeting. And what we're going to show you today is the culmination of 15 months of work that the entire committee has done to try to present to the town board what we think is the most beneficial plan for the infrastructure for this entire area. And it's a pretty significant plan that we have. And we're super excited about it. I would say we're not going to be talking too much about programming. Our role was not to decide, you know, where the camp is going to go versus where seniors might spend time, how often the pool is open, those types of things. Our role is to present what do we think the infrastructure should look like. In order to do that, we basically asked the entire community, what do they want to see here? And so let me just show you a little bit about what we see.
I'd like to see pool, technically, and contract.
Okay, I love it.
I think it's would be awesome to know little kids be able to run around while it's outside. Outdoor workout.
I'd love to see a community garden and as long as I'm cool that everybody.
So I'm calling it Project Holland. It's not working on the Kennedy Field Task Force Integration Center and Youth Center improvement programs because I feel like the US can have its nice things as Europe. Let's do it.
That's, and then going to the skate side and been recently going to the youth center. It's really fun there and a lot of kids for them. I think the basketball pool courts and tennis courts should be improved, skate parks should also be improved. And youth center should be a little better. So basically everything should be. It would be incredible to have a community pool, right? Could swim, participate, and there's a lake part of doing it, just becomes this little bit of community where we social skill on. And it's really like skill that children need to know from this age, from 1 year, 6 months. If we were swimming in the centers.
Schools should be open to the people that live in town, around town, shouldn't just be for camp. I like to see the fields nicer, so for pickup games on Sunday.
I always wanted a big public pool, Holly has it, Rosendale has it, why would we not have it? I would love a big public pool for me, for my kids, who go there every day, so the town needs, and has always needed, and I would love that, if it would be there on the list.
I did all the, see the youth center and the trails, one on the water, the other one in the back property.
I'd love to see some new stuff there at the youth center, freshen up those buildings, fix up that skating park. Maybe a little bit more of the updated basketball area. Give everybody a little bit of space to hang out. That's a little more comfortable.
Skate parks should be nicer. Way nicer. It's like a bigger thing. Compared to solid.
My wish list for the Andy Reid Recreation Field campus is a dedicated senior citizen center with a recreation program managed by the program.
It'd be so great for the kids to have some place to swim, especially since they're closing so many swimming pools in town. And just to make it more community.
I would just like to have a place where recreation and to play with my community and have some fun.
Let's get a fitness center, so Woodstock and stay healthy.
I would love to see something for families. I'd love to see like a ton of like if we ask, but that would be incredible for your kids, your grandkids, have a picnic. Oh my God, that would be amazing.
So it's sentiments like that that really drove our whole process. We really spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of resources to find out what we as a community all wanted. And tonight we're going to present that plan to you. So, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to introduce ourselves, talk about our mission, talk about the rationale and the approach that we brought to this plan. We're going to talk about the master planning firm that we hired, a little bit about the history of where we're all sitting, and then the current state of the youth center and the overall curriculum. Talk about the public input that we gathered, show you the master plan, which is really, what you're all here for, or many of you are here for. And then talk about the next steps, the priorities, and the financials to a certain extent around this. So we would just quickly introduce ourselves. I'm Ben Schachter, a member of the community and a member of this task force. You all want to introduce yourself?
Jason Glazer, the community, fairly recent transplant, my wife's born and raised here, epidemiologist, that's me, yeah, Lori.
Hi, Lori Osmond, resident, active on the school board for a long time. Just, have the kids in my life who've gone to the youth center and I want to be involved, so.
Hi, I'm Josie Diels. I am a member of the community and a parent of a child who's frequency youth center.
I'm Joseph Pell. I'm a retired. I joined the voice of a senior citizen.
I'm Dr. Manganaro, I'm a disability advocate, task force committee, and I hope everybody likes report. That's what
I'm Patrick Gather, I'm the director of the Woodstock Youth Center. This October will be 17 years I've worked for the town.
Hi, Peter Canton, former Woodstock Youth.
So, we wanted to just kind of touch on why we should do this. First of all, it's pretty common knowledge that the youth center building, which Patrick will attest to, is past its prime in a big way. It's got some serious drawbacks and doesn't accommodate any kind of accessibility for disabled sight lines. There's a lot of problems that Patrick will tell you about. So some of the economic and health benefits that we just want to touch on briefly is creating these community spaces, these multi-generational community spaces have benefits for young and old alike, as well as mental health, physical activity, that sort of thing. We really wanted to continue to serve the families that live in Woodstock and hopefully also attract new ones. Drowning is the leading cause of children from 1 to 4, according to the CDC. And so teaching kids to swim is a big priority. New York State has a program called New York Swims, where they are funding pools for that very reason. Wellness, basically, swimming, whether you are young or old, is a great way to get exercise potentially year round. And it also, for older people, it eliminates a lot of mobility barriers to other forms of exercise. Incidentally, by 2030, 1 in every 5 residents will be of retirement age. And also a farmer's market pavilion, which you'll hear a little bit more about. It's well known that farmers markets do serve as really economic drivers for the entire community beyond the days that the farmers market is held. And so we were appointed in July 2023 by the town supervisor. We're all volunteers. We've been meeting weekly since then, and really focusing on the youth center and then the broader rec field. We started with just a handful of ideas and quickly decided to reach out to the community. There have only been 2 sacred cows. The youth center is a relatively new building. We have a elm tree over there, which is certified by New York State as one of the few surviving Dutch elm trees. So those are things that cannot be touched. And then we held meetings, informal and formal, with various town constituents, as did EDR, our master planning firm. And our approach has really been shoot for the stars. You know, this is how we at least reach the treetops. So thank you.
Joseph?
Just to bring a little historical perspective to the space. The town has, this space has always reflected the life that's going on in the town. It was a hunting ground for the indigenous people who lived here. It became farmland in the 1800s. A cemetery was built here. Just adjacent, a fish and game club acquired the space after about 100 years of farming, after the hemlock forests were clear cut. The building in which we're seated is a remnant of the St. Joan of Arc Roman Catholic parish from the 1920s. The youth center was the rectory for the parish. The parish flourished through the 30s, 40s, 50s, but the land was acquired by a fish and game club, which donated the land to the town as a living memorial. In the 1950s, the pool was donated to the town, the camp pool, the pool that you see just outside here. In case you're interested, the field is named after Andy Lee, who was a high school student, a celebrated high school student who was killed accidentally in a hunting accident before he graduated high school. And the town named the rec field after him, after Andy Lee. The building which became the youth center was acquired in the 70s. The basketball courts were added in the 90s. And the community garden was founded in 2000. So the land has always reflected the needs of Woodstock, and it's the firm belief of the committee that we need to continue to make the land a reflection of the needs of Woodstock and bring it appropriately into the 21st century.
Peter?
So what we've been referring to as the Andy Lee campus actually consists of 4 parcels totaling over 17 acres. And a lot of people know about this far from 6.3 acres north of the visit. So when we started our project, we thought we had this 17+ acre palette to paint whatever picture the community wanted on, right? Well, wrong. Because of wetlands delineation, which we have done. And it's shrunken the usable footprint by probably more than half. So what we're proposing tonight is on a pretty tight footprint. In part because of that, it formed us the logical place for a lot of components that you'll see later in the presentation.
So currently, the youth center is in an old, 2-story building. It was nice that we've had it as long as we have, but we've kind of outgrown it. Our numbers are up considerably, about 25–30% over the last couple of years. So the building has had its use. It's provided a great space for a lot of the people in the community, a lot of the kids, things like that, safe haven where they can just grow, develop, socially and things like that. But what we're hoping for is that you'll get behind us and support, a new youth center, something a little bit more expansive, so we have better, lines of sight and vision and things like that. Updated facility without some of the problems that we're dealing with right now over there, with just conditions and just wear over time. So yeah, you'll see some photos here. If you're ever interested in stopping by, and taking a look through the building, you're more than welcome. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind getting behind us and supporting this, we would really appreciate it. The kids would appreciate it. And I thank you guys for all your support over the years. Thank you.
So for the next, as we started to look at what we wanted to do, we as a committee, we really wanted to hear from the community. So we did a lot of work. We mailed a survey, we did focus groups, we interviewed the youth at the youth center. We talked to different groups around town, parents, the farm fest people, the Woodstock, the Historical Society. And you can see a bigger list of this. We will be posting this presentation on the website, so you can see a comprehensive list. But we really wanted to hear from all sorts of constituents, to every, different ages, different groups, different people having interest here, including the people who play softball, right? People who, the kids who skateboard, the people who use the community center already. So we really wanted to get a lot of different voices, and we came up with a list of over 100 different things people wanted, from walking trail to the skate park to the pool. We really heard a lot of different, a long list of items that people want. We put it all together, so we were not editing what we were hearing. We really wanted to put a comprehensive list of all the things the space could be, including also publicly heard meetings. And there's still a chance for people to weigh in on what people, want to see here. So if you haven't been part of any conversation, there's still, we're still gathering and stuff like that. And so for what we heard, Jason, come on.
Right, so I mean, I think you covered it extremely well. Hi, everybody. But what I was thinking also, I would do these kind of more informal discussions with like different groups and different stakeholders, including more focused qualitative assessments through focus groups. Like, what if we put out a survey and attempted it to be as representative as possible? So it went out to every single household in Woodstock and a little bit in the surrounding area, but we could eliminate that to address cross-reference. And we basically asked what people wanted. We tried to make sure the questions weren't weighted, that you had kind of the things that have come up with the informal discussions and the focus groups, but then also a place where you could list what your interests were if they weren't there in the different categories. And it was kind of interesting, but kind of not surprising, that most of the things we heard about in the video and those qualitative and those kind of sit-down settings was really reflected in the more quantitative survey. Now, there's just a couple slides here. I'm not going to take the time to go through all of it, but what I can tell you is on the town website next couple days, there will be a full report. From the team that we worked with that did that. It was actually my team, we run an international epidemiological group, so we are pretty good at surveys and analysis. We have a full report for the town board, but also for the public on what we found, some recommendations on how to improve that civic engagement through surveys. For other questions that might come up, other issues that come up. We also have, I think, about 8 slides that break down the data and like the different respondents and percentage of the rates. And unfortunately, you can lead a horse to water and you know the rest of that one. We only got about 85 respondents. Yeah, so that's kind of a bummer. So everybody got the postcard that was posted. That said, there's zero reason why you can't jump on there and keep responding if it's of interest. And we can keep utilizing.
Codes on that.
There were,
It wasn't a survey on the card, it was just QR codes.
right,
And a little web address.
yeah, which took you to the survey. Yes, correct. So, thank you.
Jackie, you want to go?
Oh, and what doesn't come up on surveys, but is super important is the Jackie's topic.
Hi, I'm Jackie Manganaro, most of you already know me. I'm a disability advocate, and presently the way the youth center sits, you have a ramp, it's a stairway to nowhere. Great ramp, but once you get in the building, you're not gonna be able to use any type of apparatus to get into the bathrooms. They're like this big, and it's just ridiculous. The rec field has no accessibility wall. You have parking spaces for accessible parking here, but where do you go? Right? So that's why I'm on the task force, and I really dig working with everybody. We really did crunch this out really hard. And I hope everybody sort of, works along with us and agrees to some of the things. And we are dealing with the community a whole lot. If you're not hearing, I don't know why, because postcards have gone out, social media. And what we are saying to all of you, we really like this amount of people because we want your input. So I'm here to make sure that the accessibility is not overlooked, that it's accessible, there's all inclusion, no exclusion at the park. Thank you all.
So. Next part of the presentation, we're going to show what we actually think we should be doing here. Graphically, our master planners have done a wonderful job of showing you exactly what we think we can do. So let me introduce Jared from EDR, and you can talk a little bit about what we're proposing.
Good evening, thank you for being here, a very important project. My name is Jared Kadich. I'm a landscape architect for the firm of Environmental Design and Research. I'm based in Saratoga. We teamed with the Finney Design Group, who's also based in Saratoga. Ed runs the Troy office. So we handle the site work. Finney Design Group handles the architecture. We've been teaming on projects for longer than Ed's been. So we started with we started off with a inventory. It's very important that we hear what the wish list is.
To move on that side so that the board can see.
Yeah, sure. I'll explain this in just.
No, she wants us to fly over here a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. We got yeah, there you go. You're nice to look at, but we wanted to see.
You're like now and not, that's what's.
So you were saying. So we went through probably 20, 30 different versions of what this could be. As Peter was saying, that we have a lot of wetlands towards the rear of the site that we're going to show you how we're going to use those. But the developable area of the site is pretty much what is developed right now. So it's taking all that program and reconfiguring it in the highest density possible to achieve the plan that was desirable. The plan that we arrived at is somewhat of a campus green, if you will. We heard that the village green concept is extremely important, and we maintain that. So at the center of the plan is the village green, and that extends to a repositioned baseball field. So when the baseball field is not in use for baseball, that green extends quite extensively. So that's the core, that's the spine of the project. And then in many of the discussions that we heard, the neighbors are concerned about noise and volume. So looking around the site, we have a pavilion for farmers market, lots of trees for a picnic area. Next to that, we have a children's splash area and play area, a venture park, all through there. Then we relocated the community gardens to a sunnier site within the park on the north side.
that's where 10 is. And then, we go down to the baseball softball field, which is 7. Tennis and pickleball is generally in the same area, but pushed over a bit, so those would be new courts. And then as we round the back, let's go back to the front. So we concentrated the bulk of the parking at the front where it is, because that seemed to be the central location that serviced the shortest distance to all the uses, okay? We also heard that it's very apparent that the front facade of the community center is somewhat dismal with all the pavement. So we heard that there wants to be a green strip there, that's the frontage, that represents the front door to the park. We have controlled access for vehicles into the site. We now have two areas, 2 to 3 right now. And along that green area, which is probably about 30 feet wide, 20 to 30 feet wide, we have a pedestrian walkway that comes across the center. Also at the center, we've met with the different veterans groups, and one of the things we heard is that the Veterans Memorial, that right now is isolated. It's such a key, important component to the history of Woodstock that the discussions had to make it more involved with the park as a whole. So what we've done is the fence that is in front of it, we've taken that and flipped that on the back, so the memorial now becomes part of the park, part of the streetscape, and we have a walkway that now goes very close in front of it. We have 5 trees that represent the 5 different branches of the military, and that was contemplated back in the area. So that's the Veterans Memorial. Moving back to the campus proper, we have the community center. No modifications to the community center proper, although we do call for a seniors center, senior rooms on the south side. And we'll talk about some of the square footage and uses within each of these buildings. You don't want me to do that. Then on the back, we have where we have the stage right now, which was always a kind of stage. We have a more enhanced feature as a covered stage in the back that now opens up onto the green. So here's this would be the stage area with the green there. South of the community center and senior center addition, we have the indoor pool complex that we felt that's a high profile item, kind of showy, so we wanted to bring that up front. So that's right in parallel, continues to the side of the community center. On all the buildings where we could, we applied solar panels for energy efficiency. So those would be the new features. This is cool, but the other ones are solar panels. So this is the indoor pool, 2 here. Next to it, we have an outdoor pool, a smaller pool that's right next to it. And then we have an outdoor basketball court. 4 is a gym or a multi-use court type of gym. So it's not just basketball, it's volleyball, all kinds of uses, dancing. And then next to that, where this all started, is the youth center, 5. And then the 6 is a redundant skate park that once again moves those noisy things down to the south side of the park itself. And that whole south side is accessed via a service drive that comes along and terminates at the end. That will have various areas of handicap parking. I believe this plan right now is shown as somewhere about between 75 and 85 spaces. What we're looking at essentially double what's here.
We're just going to hold questions to the end.
Okay. So this is zooming out and taking a drone going up higher. Here's the development area that we talked about. Here's the area that Peter said was inundated with wetlands. We view wetlands as a positive thing. They're a highly valued part of our ecosystem. But what we've done here is to do nature trails, nature walks through that area. All right. So this whole area would be kind of laced with the configuration of trails that start back here. The idea for the trail system throughout the park, in the front and up there, is to have a series of walking loops so that you can walk different distances right now. So it's not just out and back, it's different loops and configurations. Don't have a total mileage figured out yet, though I will soon. So that's it. That's pretty good. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna turn over to Ed, that's gonna go through the building components.
Great, one on the slide, that'd be great. Thanks everybody for having us tonight. I'm Ed Angle with City Design Group. We do a lot of community planning projects, and I have to say that the group that we were able to work with on this one has been some of the best opportunities we've had. So it's a really committed group, and a lot of information was collected. We hope we've got it all covered here, but I'll preface this by saying what we did after we kind of collected all the data, we do what's called precedent study. And that's what these images are here. These are just images of other facilities that might look like what we want to do in the future. And then we start programming that into a building footprint. So we can start putting these things on the site in some recognizable square footage. We're going to start with the pool complex, and we're going to work our way around building, and we can come back to questions at the end. But I'll walk you through basically what we've got here. Number one right here, this is a 6-lane indoor pool. Associated locker rooms and whatnot. This is actually to the Veterans Park down here. This is to the parking lot up here. Again, completely handicap accessible to all the portions of the site. We've incorporated basically an indoor soaking pool, which could also be used for seniors. It'll have a ramp in, so there won't need to be any lifts or hydraulics to get people in and out of the center. Go ahead. Is it the right here? Down. There we go. So we blocked out the existing community center because quite frankly, we don't have a model built for that. We use a program called Revit, which actually allows us to model these buildings in their actual 3-dimensional form. I'll show you what that's in a few minutes here. But this is basically showing you what an addition on this particular building might look like in that direction, using that access off the kitchen as essentially a connector. We've created 2 separate kind of senior rooms. Both of them are different sizes, so they can accommodate different uses throughout the year, throughout the day. But again, adding some more square footage that's dedicated towards senior citizens. And quite frankly, when it's not being used by senior citizens, it's multi-purpose space. So it can really be programmed in a lot of different things. Back in the back, and get to this as well. This is that band shell that Jared had alluded to. We created a little bit of a green room that goes off of the back of the building, you guys are probably familiar with. And this is that enhanced band shell undercover out the back. And that overlooks that big expensive lawn that we currently have. Are you enhancing a little bit? All right, so this is that gymnasium and youth center piece. So this is the multi-sport court. We show basketball on here, but this is not just a basketball court. You can do volleyball, you can do pickleball, you can do tennis inside, volleyball. 2 games going on in the opposite direction. I've planned a lot of these over the years, and this has been one of the things that we do with striping to accommodate a whole lot of different uses. Public schools have been doing this for years. We've basically accommodated the exact same thing. So through programming and whatnot, we get able to accommodate a whole lot of different uses in space. The other thing we can do is we can put a dividable curtain down the middle of the space, so it can be used by 2 different groups at the same time. Might have dance going on one side, pick up basketball game going on the other, but all depends. And then right here, this is the youth center. So this is about 2.5 times the current size of the current youth center. But we've created it in such a way that we've got this what we use technical terms called panopticon, so that when someone's standing in here, someone administering that space, they can see all the other spaces around that from one specific position inside the space, which is very important to Patrick and his staff, because they have limited staff. They want to be able to administer the maximum amount of children as safely as possible. And again, some precedent study images. We went through a pretty detailed precedent study with all the committee members and some of the community members, and coming up with what's the vernacular or what's the aesthetic that we want to go for towards the overall project as a whole. And again, this will all be published online and on the website release. This is the farmers market pavilion. This is immediately adjacent to the parking lot that lives right here. We've designed this in such a way that farmers market vans can pull up directly up to the pavilion. Each of them have their own stalls. This accommodates about 20. We've heard as many as 24 have accommodated at the farmers market in the last couple of weeks, which is great. So there's an ability to expand in this direction if need be in the future. This side we deliberately left open and not have vehicular access there, so as to keep the view from the farmers market out to that big lawn and some of the other complexes buildings. So again, here's some precedent study images that sang pretty well to the community.
And then just keep in mind, it's a multi-use pavilion, so theoretically the farmers market happening 1 or 2 days a week. There's a lot of other things we can do with that, including, by the way, revenue opportunities that would help pay for some of this.
One of the things that we talked about here, and again, we'll take this to the next phase when we get into the next phase of the work, but we're probably going to reduce the amount of columns in here so we have a little more open span, so you can have larger activities where you're not going to have a whole bunch of columns in the middle of the space. Excellent. So this is that bandstand pavilion. These are some precedent study images. This is actually at the Tupper Lake. This is their bandstand right in the lake overlooking the lake. And that is actually really similar to what we want to do here. Give a really nice performance venue for shows that overlooks that green. So here's what we think it's going to look like. So I'll walk you through it. This is the baseball diamond in the back there, the softball diamond in the back. This is that youth center piece that lives right here. This is that gymnasium. This is the pool and the outdoor sport court, and then the indoor pool on the front side there. This is the existing senior center and the bandstand that lives right there, the splash pad, and the playground, then the market pavilion, so they have in the front there, and the parking lot on the side.
And if I could just add one thing, when we first laid out the plan, I think all of us were quite shocked at how much space some of these buildings took up. But I think what we're trying to convey here is that the whole north side of the field, which is over here, there's things on the master plan that look like they're buildings, but they're really open. It's a playground, it's a splash pad, it's a multi-use farmer's market pavilion, and these other things. And essentially we're moving the big open space from right behind here and pushing it over to the side and then all the way back. So overall, we actually gain a lot of lawn. Because right now, there's all, there's a big lawn here, but then you have basketball court and a tennis court, those are no longer there, that's the baseball. When baseball is not being done, that creates a very, very large field. And I think that if you said it correctly, it can hold about 3,000 people correct overall in that lawn.
Yeah, based on square footage and total field.
I just want to mention, because when you pointed out the youth center and the gymnasium, the skate park there, and then the community garden.
We tuck right over here. Yep.
I just want everybody to know that we try to hit every point that they talk about, and that it's on this plan.
Thanks, really good point.
Did you want to take any of the architectural stuff with that?
Yeah, so you saw some of the precedent study images that we did before. It kind of went towards a modern barn vernacular, which we see in and around the area here. But kind of take it and treat it in a little bit more modern fashion. Some of the screening that we have, and some of the cupolas and creating natural light. And again, those views and those visions out to the skate park, out to in front of the gymnasium, into the pool, creating those open venues, but kind of reminiscent of that barn vernacular. Another shot here. This is actually kind of more ground level. You see what that would look like. You can see right up there, there's like the bandstand. There's a huge amount of lawn and expanse from the bandstand all the way out to the ball fields. More of a straight shot view if you're coming for a show, so you might see.
That's approximately 100 feet across the open area.
About here, it's about here, and then that's the farmer's market building. Multi-purpose. Yeah. This is a little bit more visual version of what that market pavilion might look like. Again, you can see the vans pulled up the front market.
But one thing I just want to add about the pavilion, a lot of that came from the farmer's market in Ithaca. It's really modeled after that. It creates such an unbelievable community event that happens there twice a week. And the entire community really comes out for it. Grab a sandwich, you can go sit in the field, you can go walk around the walking path. It's really designed to bring us all together in a way that just doesn't happen right now.
Some of the other things that we heard a lot of was we wanted to have some areas that were covered and out of the sun, so kids can come off the skate park and go under an awning and do activities under the awning. You see, we started to develop these kind of pavilions and awnings and things that create these different places for kids to hang out and adults to hang out. Go to the next one. So this is it. This is basically one of the main connections off of one of the pull-offs. So senior citizens, this is actually the addition to the senior citizen center right here, which kind of comes right off this side of the building. And again, playing with the existing vernacular of this building versus what we do, create this covered walkway that kind of connects all those parts and pieces. So you come down the covered walkway, you go into the senior center. Come down the covered walkway, you go right into the outdoor pool. I think that's the last one.
So I know it's a lot to take in. Just so you know, I was born and raised here. It's a lot of change. A lot. We understand it. But I think if you take a step back and try to understand how we came to this plan, give it a little time and understand where we're going with it. It's, I think, super important to the future of the entire town. A lot of this is about helping everyone that's here now, all of us, but also trying to bring in new families. I work in town every weekend, you see tons of tourists coming here. They love it, it's beautiful and all that, but I don't think there's anything that said, wow, I really want to raise my family. The big part of that is this. You know, that's a lot of why I got involved in this project. We want to bring people here that want to live here, that want to raise families, and really be a community. And in my view, you know, we're not the only town agent. right? This is happening across America, across New England for sure. And we think this can be a replicable model for a lot of other towns to really figure out what to do with some of these old rec fields to create a much more community-oriented area that can truly be an intergenerational campus. And that's the goal for this whole thing. In terms of the priorities, this is how we think about it, you know, depending on the evolution, how this will happen, how the funds will come together for it, et cetera. We're really thinking about it in kind of 3 priorities. The first priority is the senior center and the youth center, right? That's why we wanted to do this. Those things we think need to get done first. The second area is this multi-use farmers market pavilion and essentially the fields in that area. And then thirdly, would likely be the indoor-outdoor pool. Right? That's how we're thinking about, not stages, because if we can afford to do this at once, we will do all. And if we can't, we will think about the different priorities that we want to have. Financially, just to let you know, we're not going to talk about, we don't know the exact figures right now. We have a rough idea, but we're going to get those over the coming weeks and months. But we are thinking about 4 funding sources for this. The town, we do want all of us to chip in and pay for this, but we specifically designed it not to do anything crazy. We're not going to ask the town to pay for the entire thing. We're going to be very, I think, reasonable about it, and Bill can talk a bit more in a second about that. But we're also going to look to the county, to the state. Importantly, there's a thing called the New York Springs program. Last year, they allocated $150 million specifically for swimming pools. We've been very thoughtful about trying to reach out to political figures and folks that know political figures, and we think we are in a pretty decent position. Doesn't mean we're going to get it, but we think we're designing this so that we are going to be eligible for that grant, hopefully next year, and that can be up to $10 million to pay for a lot of the pool. And then we talked about this idea of from muffins to millions. We're going to do the big sales. We're going to try to raise a little bit of money here and there, but realistically, we need to find a handful of people that can write very, very significant checks. Another catalyst for this event was a little town out west called Artville. Very few people live there. They have an amazing indoor pool. It was all paid for by one person. So we are committed to really working on the fundraising. I think that's part of the next steps for us, but we're hoping that we can find those types of folks. So the next steps, what we're going to do from here, we're asking essentially the town board, as representatives of you all, to allow us to move to what we're calling the pre-referendum stage. Bill, and correct me if I'm wrong, the bill has already committed to, we're not going to do this until there's a referendum, so everyone gets to vote on it. We will all have our chance to have our say. But our next step really is to do more due diligence, work with our master planners, to basically figure out what can, you know, we have a beautiful plan, but can the field actually take it? So doing a few more of the environmental work on the field, and some more work on the cost estimates and working all that out so that we can get to an actual referendum. We're going to have continued public input. So I think from this stage, we're pretty committed to the overall idea of this plan, but it doesn't mean that pieces won't move around. And it doesn't mean that you all can't have your say on various areas. So we envision having essentially sub-advisory groups. So if you're really interested in the fields, you can advise on what the paths look like. If you're really interested in the pool, you can advise on what that pool should look like, the senior center, et cetera, et cetera. But all working towards this voter referendum. So with that, I want to thank you all for listening to our presentation. Like I said, we worked extremely diligently on this for 15 months. A lot of thought went into it. I think when we all got to the end and it actually was in front of us and we started talking about what this could look like, what the images are like, we were all feeling probably what you're feeling right now, which is, holy shit. It's a lot of change for this campaign, and we know that. But we really are committed to making this happen. Something needs to change here, not just in the field, but for the whole community field to get together and I think be a community we all want to live.
We're gonna open it up for questions. We'll start, I'll just work my way.
Hi, I'm Urena. I grew up here with you and spent a lot of time at a pool and I love all these ideas. It sounds really wonderful. And I'm excited about it. I see lots of great things and I think our community really needs to come together as a community again. My one question is that as these things are gonna cost a lot of money, does that mean, my fear is this gonna be the classic thing, like there is a pool for community, but the amount of money that you have to pay for to be a part of it, it kind of is not very inclusive. So I don't know if it's just town, if this is both, if whatever. but
So I'll answer that a
we
little
can
bit.
Make this
In
inclusive.
the 20 years that I've been involved with town government, we've done close to $15 million in capital improvements. And after next year, I think our debt will be around $300,000. We will have paid everything else down. So we're almost going to be debt free, and something in that range would not really show up on your taxes.
No, I mean like for people going, like
No,
she means
it's
like
right.
participate.
Right,
What is it gonna cost?
I have to buy a monthly.
Yeah, so, again, a lot of that is roughly 2 years, right? But what I would say is that many other towns around here, Olive, et cetera, they will charge de minimis amounts for residents, $2, $5, those types of things.
So I would say it's similar to the senior rec program, where we have the classes, we charge $1 for residents, $2 for non-residents.
Or for you oldies like me, like swimming, it's $1 a day.
Jack?
You're too far enough. And what is this gonna do with the summer rec program, the summer recreation?
So again, what you all asked us to do is come up with an infrastructure.
Right.
We're not getting there. What I would just say is that I can't imagine a scenario where the town puts in this type of resource and then cuts it off from the entire community, except for, when the camp's not there. There will have to be ways, and we'll work that in the plan, have a camp subgroup basically to make sure that we can understand where these things happen in terms of access. But you can easily see a scenario where camp is using the pool from 12 to 2 or 11 to 3, whatever those numbers are. But the tennis court is open, the pools are like, you essentially have to figure out how to share.
I think some thought, and I'd like to talk with you about that more. Because it is very heavily relied on every year by parents that have no other choice but.
This plan is only supposed to enhance it, not take anything away.
Right, okay.
But I think that through scheduling, through all sorts of different work, you can share both.
Okay.
I'm gonna start and go next, Rebecca.
Lifelong resident, went to school with them, went to this very place, my kids went here, long overdue. Do we have a time frame? We're talking about putting together, we're talking 1 year, we're talking 2 years, will I live long enough? That's all I'm asking, I'm done, I'm good.
It's hard to put a timetable on it.
2 years?
So it's hard to put a time to, but I've been here my whole life. I've seen a lot of these plans come and go for different things. People are gonna laugh when I say this, but people laughed when we started doing this and didn't think we were gonna have a full plan done by when.
Right.
Really pushed this perfectly. My goal is to have shovels in the ground September 25.
That's the answer I wanted, thank you.
And I'm glad people are laughing because I want, our job is to prove people wrong.
That's your first comment.
Yeah, I'll buy a shovel.
Anybody else in the front? I'll get the way you said you would do it. I'm going 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4. We said. Okay, that's what I said. David?
Yeah, David Wallace. I thank you, first of all volunteers for taking on such an enormity of a challenge. And it is a challenge whenever you do some capital improvement. So you deserve a round of applause. When someone talks about a 25 million plus project, which is what you said, it might cost last time. And then else in the project says that it's not gonna raise your taxes. Take that with a grain of salt, to be fair, My question, and I'm not saying not supporting this.
Just to be correct, that's not what I said.
You said it might not affect.
I said a $10 to $15 million project would not. That's what I said.
It's gonna be more than $10 to $15 million. So my question is, what if you don't get those 2 or 3 big ticket philanthropists, we're gonna put in 10 mil. what happened? What are we going to be looking at in terms of the raising the tax burden, which will? So our goal in the deal, can we do this without raising? I don't know the answer yet, right? We're working on it, but what I would say, and I think the town is in a remarkably unique position that essentially by the end of next year, it'll be basically debt free. What that means is that you can borrow a fairly meaningful amount of money, many millions, and not have cash outflows change in any way versus 2023 or 2024. Having said that, we've also said from the beginning, unless we get grants, unless we find some of those folks, we're likely not going to be able to do the whole thing. And so that's, in part, how we end up with these priorities. We think, moving different pieces around, there's a lot of pieces, but you think about this, we think that this phase one is very doable without impacting taxes in a significant way. And we think phase two is likely doable through grants, and even if we just get the muffins instead of muffin millions. The New York Swims, which you're counting on.
We're not counting, well, we're not counting it. Oh,
Well, it says.
All right,
It says underserved.
we're not gonna have a
communities.
sit back and forth.
Underserved communities. How do we function? How do we qualify as an
We
underserved?
do, actually, this area is zoned as low income, which is really interesting. In this area last year, according to the
City Road is the.
like I'm not the census bureau, so don't maybe like.
All right,
but the
all
point
right,
is-
all right, hold on. We're not gonna do back and forth. So next question in the second row. Third row, Bob.
We had a second.
How big are the swimming pools? Now, how big are the? Carol, you're gonna-
Sir, yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Jackie, cross me off the list for the 3 minutes thing, all right? I'm just gonna say something.
Anybody else have any questions?
Just incredible job you guys did. I mean, I knew that this was in the works, but I'm dumbfounded and very impressed. My undergraduate degree is in physical education. So I'm a jock from way back. I'm glad to see all this stuff maybe coming down. Thank you.
I will say to Carol, I've known Carol a long time, police officer in town. We did speak with the police. We did speak with Patrick. A big part of this, by the way, is also safety and the ability to monitor what happens. Right now, we're all at an age where we may not understand, but things have changed here pretty dramatically. And what happens now is that pavilion in the back of the field, not good things happen in general. And a lot of kids that come to this field now, they don't come up Rock City Road. They come up a place which I had never heard of until I started in this project called the Comfy Trail. If you come out here at 3 o'clock when school's over, you will see a bunch of kids walking out of the woods back. And so what happens is Patrick is out here in the corner, can't really see much what's going on. He's driving by, can't really see what's going on back there. And so when we did this, we were very thoughtful about trying to figure out sight lines and understanding how people could be safe, as well as, not obviously standing, or I have an 11-year-old, who doesn't want me standing there watching him all the time. But I think given, your previous role, it's important to understand that we've really thought through some of the ways that this can all be improved, not just, hey, let's put a big pool.
Bob, how big are the pools?
Yep, so Bob, this is a 6-lane, 25-meter pool. That whole facility is roughly
25 meters is what, 75?
75 feet, roughly.
And how wide?
6 lanes, each lane is about 5 feet wide, so 30 feet pool area. So
What's that? Back and forth, I think it's the line.
yes. Similar in size, or it's a different facility, it's similar art, but yeah, I think,
And the small pool, how big is that?
roughly half. Are you talking about the one inside the building? Or the
No,
one
the
outside?
one that's outside the building.
That's roughly half that size.
About 40 by 50.
Yeah, about 40 by 50.
How many people can fit in these two pools in the middle of the summer?
We'd have to run the calculation. I think it's about 15 square feet per person.
Okay, but I'm swimming lanes or what?
Yeah, it depends on what the pool can use.
I'm not talking about people doing lanes, I'm talking about coming out with your family in the middle of August, setting up a place to sit and sending kids to the pool while you're having a sandwich. How many people can you fit in the two pools?
Indoor and outdoor, again, a lot of depends on who's guys doing what, maybe 50 to 75 people in the pool.
Have you been to the outdoor pool?
I have not.
Well, you know how many people they can fit in that pool?
I don't know about how many.
200.
Okay.
So just that, everything we're seeing here is a master plan.
So what?
A master plan. None of these things are the actual 100%, we are looking. Yeah, and we'll have plenty of time to have input and change things as we all consider.
Sarah, did you have a question?
Well, I had to work with, question actually about, the garden, the community garden. Is that like a share kind of garden where
The
residents?
same program that exists now, it's moved on the site, so it gets a little bit better, so.
Okay, but I also wanted to point out, while we're talking about getting funds for something like this, we talk a lot in various meetings, all the different committees and commissions, we talked about this. We really need a town grant writer, at least one. So,
Let's
if you
stick
wanna
with
talk,
this.
we do, I mean, we can, this is this topic, we're looking at drawing, but we need to discuss this topic. And if we're talking about drawing families here, let's, it does tie in, everything ties in, Bill, come on, I've been waiting for your.
All right, so you have a question?
I do. Could we please, phrase it this way. Could we please not change the appearance of Woodstock? And ask our folks who own businesses here to change their signage to match our town signage as just plain old.
You got it.
Thanks.
And not third row? Chris?
Yes, first of all, of course, good job, guys. I didn't hear anything about a performance space, for local community theatre. Would that still be here or?
This building won't change. That was the one mandate we had, well, that and the tree.
Okay.
This building will not change, they'll add on.
So business as usual.
This is gonna be just what you did here.
But the stage is enhanced in the back, the one that I don't think.
So now, outside venue will be.
Is there any way of resolving the conflict on a Sunday afternoon between the drum circle and the theatre crew?
Well, what I'll point out is there's gonna be more space, we're gonna have a potentially covered pavilion over there that could be used. There'll be the senior center here.
Oh, yeah, the drums could go to the pavilion.
Yeah, so yes. More in the third row, fourth row, fifth row. Sarah, glasses, out there.
Okay, I bring my grandson playground here. And we have to offer to leave because the sun impacts us so much, there's no shade. So I just want to make sure that in your master plan, which I found to be stunningly beautiful, gobsmacked, and my compliments to the chefs, please. And so I just really would like to make sure that you have ample shade amidst the beautiful design for this children's playground.
So just show them what that.
Yeah, so you can see here, it's on the plan, that number 11 here. The trees that you see are tucked in and around the playground apparatus. So obviously, you know, trees don't come full grown, that takes some time, but the plan is that we create these picnic groves and shade areas in and around the playground apparatus, so we don't get anything hot.
So short answer is yes.
And also, we plant trees that were there when I was a kid along the fence line between the field and the graveyard.
And keep in mind, that's and will be there as well.
Next,
That's
Fanny?
Yeah, I think is it going to be built around here? The new center?
Yes.
Right now,
So this is the existing community center that we're sitting in right now.
okay, but the new center is going to be the same place where it is?
So it will be further back on the site,
okay.
down over here.
So, but it will be in this area, it would be in the area, so. This last year, that, you know, on the summer, there was a problem for the youth center, because, you know, the youth center was using the whole area here. And they wouldn't allow the senior citizens to meet here. Also, there is a TV station that is there, and there are people that come and use the TV station, and they didn't allow me to come during, you know, like between 8 and 4 o'clock.
I think you're talking about the summer camp program.
The summer, right.
So that's even more reason for this, that's even more reason for this to happen, because it's back
And
here.
that's like another town meeting, and it's definitely come up, but I think it merits discussion later, but like the idea, and I'll be a little that. I don't know, somewhat inflammatory, I think it's a little ridiculous that like one group holds it hostage from everybody else.
Okay,
I
well,
think
then,
most of us
if
agree,
they're-
but we have to figure out a way to make a compromise with the camp. So the parents feel safe when their kids are at, but also in a way that we can all utilize it and through programming and scheduling and some, you know, hopefully coming together, we can work it out. But I think everybody hears you, but the idea here is how to make it a place where we can all use all year long and nobody's got a monopoly on it. That it's truly for and of and by the community. And to your point, that it's affordable, that any cost there is negligible or even on some sort of sliding scale.
Around this.
We absolutely,
You know, if you put in this amount of resources into something.
Yeah.
Clearly, other resources have to be around, how do people share it, how do people organize it, how do people plan with it? We're not gonna get involved in our group is the infrastructure group, but clearly you don't build something like this and then not have a system where you can figure out how better to share all these different facilities, but you know, as I pointed out, you could literally have the youth center using half the gym for basketball while seniors are doing yoga on the other side. You can design things like that, so that would be the plan.
Next row behind Danny, anybody in that row? Second to last row, okay, lady in the last row with your hand up.
Hi, my name is Cassidy. I moved here a few years ago and have two kids and drive to Kingston and Xenia back for bigger pools, private lessons, access to gym, and relish the opportunity to come together with my community, seniors alike, because I think that's important, that cross-generational connection. My dad is 77 and moving here in just a month. So thank you for all this work. You know, this is more of a plea for the community to come together and support each other with the sense of curiosity and excitement, rather than fear. It feels a little premature for kind of the nitpicking that I'm hearing, and I appreciate concerns need to be expressed, but I'm guessing, coming from wrong, that none of this will happen without community support. So I hope that everyone can come together on some level and have a degree of trust that these people get ironed out. So thank you so much for your effort. And my question is, at this stage, how can we support you in moving this forward?
So I would say the next step is we're waiting on a cost estimate from the design team to work on the next phase. The next phase will provide a deeper dive into exactly what we're gonna do here, design work with an estimate on, an actual estimate on what the project's gonna cost, the different phases will cost, and get us to the point where we can put it up for a public vote. So I'll put to you, Ed, I know that you're gonna have a price for me in the next week or two that I can share with the board regarding the contract. If the board were to come forward in October and say, yes, sign the contract supervisor in the middle of October, how long is the next phase? What's your anticipated time?
So there's legal obligations for how long the vote between the time the town board passes basically the ability to go out to referendum to the referendum has a minimum of 45 days.
Right.
Usually we do that a little bit longer to allow much more public input between those two phases. Allows us to kind of develop that the cost implications and the actual cost impact on that. The nice thing is with the amount of work that we've done so far, we've gotten a lot of those steps for a public referendum already put together. Kind of have a general idea where it wants to live, where the pieces want to live. Now it's fine tuning it. By the end of this week, we'll have a proposal to the town for our next level of pre-referendum services. We've basically divided it into two separate phases. If we go forward with pre-referendum services and the town votes it down, we're done. We retool and maybe come back out again. If the town votes a positive of it, then we move forward with the next phase, which is our design development, or schematic design development, construction documents, and then ultimately build it out. So that's kind of the next phase. We'll key in on the phasing a lot more specifically for the referendum as well, so that public referendum, have that language very clearly spelled out.
So when will you have, so for the public referendum, we're gonna need an estimate of at least priority number one.
We'll estimate all three phases, and then I can, so you guys have a.
So when do you think you would have a good estimate?
Yeah.
Are you talking, if you started this in October, do you think by January?
Typically, but 30 days before the vote date, we want to have it.
Well, we would need it to, when we go to
45 days.
Yes, you need to have a number by the time you,
Right.
well, you can vote and have a number, and then we can basically give that. It's just-
Right, so. I would say.
Everyone said we couldn't do it in that time. And so I really, is going to push this as hard as we can. Peter talked about, if this goes well tonight, and the town board says, let's go ahead and go to this next pre-referendum stage, which we were hoping to do. To us, that means we're gonna go and start fundraising. We're gonna go try to find these people that potentially can pay for this. It may amount to $0. It may amount to the entire project being paid for. We don't know yet. But we're super aggressive about the fundraising. We're super optimistic, and we just need your support to go forward. And then hopefully sometime relatively early in the year, we want your support to pass a referendum, because yeah, we are gonna ask the town to pay for some of this, but we want to try to push this forward as quickly as we can, so this doesn't become one of those Woodstock projects that just doesn't happen.
Can I answer Cassie's question? What people can do? So, I mean, one thing, if you want to get on the fundraising task force, that'd be great. I think you're really eloquent. You pitched it well. I think you're highly represented what we want. Why your parents having 45 minutes of these back and forth for basic services for the kids. I'm also one of those parents. So we'd love to have you on board, and also for everybody, like, get the vote out when it comes voting time. I mean, it'll depend where you fall on it, obviously, but for those that want to support it, get people out there and think about what task force you want to be on. If you're really passionate about the pool. The pool is accessible for the vision and time. You're really passionate about the baseball field, like, get on that. So those are the things to answer your question, like, what can you do? Talk to Ben, talk to the team here, and we'll put you to work.
So one other thing I would add, I think one of our biggest challenges, there's a lot of challenges, one of the biggest challenges for this has been getting the word out. It's so difficult.
Yeah.
We went on Facebook, more or less what we could do. We actually put up billboards throughout town, we sent the postcards. There's a pretty good showing here, but there are what? How many people? 5,000 homes in this town. We want to see everybody involved. We have 6,400 residents. 6,400 residents. So what can you do? Let's try to get all our friends to talk about this. And it doesn't mean support every single one. It means get involved and say, you know what? The pool's too small, the pool's too big, or the pool's cheaper. Help us, do this so we can move forward. We're just asking for everyone to be involved and get your friends.
Laura had a question.
I have a question. So I guess the tricky part for the referendum, I'm guessing, is, as you listed before, is there's sources of funding. So if we do a referendum, that would be what we're expecting Woodstock to pay for. So how much do we have to know about other money we're gonna get, like federal or state, when we pick our dollars and go on referendum?
So we as a board and they as a committee need to have a dialogue about this. And we were just getting this now. In my mind, at this point, I would think that we would be looking at priority number one. Going out to ponder that. It is possible, and I talked about it with Ed and Ben, that we could have a two-phase referendum where we have priority number one at $10 and priority number two is an extra $15. So that's one potential way to do it. And as we drill down on the numbers, we'll have that discussion. We don't anticipate going out to bonds for the whole thing, so.
At least not right, not now.
But again, if the board decides we want to, do three phases and three bond questions, so be it.
So, a partial answer to that. So if you town board empower us to continue our work to the next phase, that will trigger our fundraising efforts. This master plan is the tool that we have needed to start that.
The $39 security camera taking US homes.
So that's what we're asking for. And we'll continue, and we think we've already have in our budget that you've given us the monies to continue to the next phase.
Excellent. Okay.
So that's what we're asking for.
So with that, I'm gonna wrap up. Give us a lot to think about, and okay, there'll be last question.
How much time do we have to look at this and make any changes before you need a number to give to him?
Yeah, I mean, we have some time, between the time when we decide to, basically approve a referendum. That's our job, to get the public information out there. If there's things that need to be tweaked, so be it. That's partly what we hear from folks. Maybe we want to do this a little differently, we'll do that a little differently. But then again, there's also, presuming the referendum passes, whenever that date's gonna be, we have a lot of design work, right? These are really pretty pictures right now, but there's not a lot of heavy pen and paper just yet. Before we get to a point where we've got construction documents, so we can bid this out to contractors, they'll have to municipally bid, it's all public funded. We've got a lot of time before that happens.
But shovels in the ground is coming from.
The long answer is, months or.
Months, yeah, months.
And we can reactivate surveys and like it's like well within the budget that we have, which we're pretty, we're pretty fiscally conservative on what we spent, what was available. So hosting more focus groups and things like that to go over plans certainly isn't off the table. I think that'd be a good thing. Once we have things more concrete for people to look at and have direct feedback and have that measured, that's all doable.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That one more.
Talks about the square feet, square feet is broken, that.
Email that. Okay.
Good work.
What were you doing again? Howard?
No. Go ahead.
So, my love, I think the customers that are getting that, a lot of people that need to work. I don't think responsibility of 3,000.
So that is the question that you should be.
Well, my comment is, I've been to a number of the public hearings that the Youth Center Task Force has had, so I've been involved along the way, and I saw this pre-presentation. So I feel like I'm pretty familiar with it. I hope that we as a board choose to move forward, because I fully understand this is a master plan. Things will evolve as time goes on and the details get ironed down, but I personally think it's the right direction. I think it's a wonderful plan because it's inclusive, it is broad thinking, and it will move us forward.
Well, I think the task force did an excellent job. I applaud the fact that they used a professional team to put the design together. I've met with several members of the task force, and I've told all of them I'm in full support going forward with the entire project.
Excellent. Really, I've met with them as well, and I'm very excited. It's a great
great, addition for
So, Ed had mentioned he'll have a proposal to you by the end of the week, I'll get that out to you. It is anticipated that there's still quite a bit of money in the capital, so I don't believe that we'll have to, increase that at this point. But, anyway, I'll keep you posted. Anula, you had a resolution you wanted to offer.
I do, I have a resolution that looks at the short-term rental fees and offers a little bit of nuance to the owner-occupied short-term rentals versus the non-owner occupied short-term rentals. And I think that that is an important distinction that we ought to think about. And I want to put forth that establishes a clear fee structure for those SDRs. I'm happy to read it, it's very short. The resolution that I put together reads, now therefore be it resolved that effective January 1st, 2025, the fee structure for short-term rentals, SDRs in the town of Woodstock shall be as follows. Owner occupied in-home SDR 250 per year, owner occupied SDR with an accessory dwelling unit, that's an ADU, 350 a year, and non-owner occupied SDRs 450 per year. And also be it further resolved that all payments for SDR fees shall be made either in full quarterly installments, which is currently the case to my understanding.
Well, I'll second for purpose of discussion, but I was going to make a motion to table this. The reason being, and I'm not opposed to some structure like this. I haven't fully digested the numbers, but it seems like something I in theory could get, or it is something that I could get behind in theory, maybe some jiggling. The one thing I would bring up though is that sitting on the governor's desk is law that Michelle Lynch has championed, just waiting for the governor's signature, which would allow us as the towns to have a, what I guess I know is a sales tax. If that comes through, then I would think that would be, I know you do mention that in the year. So I'd like to hold off at least a couple of weeks, maybe.
Yeah, I'm good with that, and if we could get it on the calendar for that time, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so Matt.
Okay, so the one, there were two things. The one is, I know the reason we went to quarterly installments this year was because the increase was a surprise to people. Money right away, so it'd be nice to move to an annual, maybe next year, not the year, but annual, maybe quarterly, we still need it for next year, but I hope that we evolve back to annual, because people know what to expect, but have a better chance of doing it. And the other thing is, I think it's important that, I like your tiered approach, I think it's, thank you for bringing this forward. I do think the definitions 1, 2, and 3 need to be a clear match with the current law, because right now the current law has 3 types. It does have 2 types of owner occupied and 1 type of non-owner occupied. I like your definitions, however, I think it's important that they are an exact match to the current law. So that's my other comment, but I really like the idea of the tiered approach, and I thank you very much for putting it forward.
Thank you.
So Melanie, just remember, we'll start the agenda for the next full meeting and just add a placeholder, STR fee amendment or resolution.
What I can do is incorporate these changes, if everyone is okay with that, circulate it to the board prior to that meeting, so that we can go from there.
And in the meantime, if the governor does something that we can have different conversations.
Yes, but the governor signs the tax, what would a different conversation be?
In my mind, I think we should have a tax because I've always maintained that's the fairest way. So if you have one individual, Chris rents it out 3 times a year and makes $500, he's gonna pay 1 or 2%, whatever we come up with. Somebody else is renting it out for 300 days out of the year, they're paying 3 days, so it's more equitable.
So that would replace this, I mean, if we had tax, we might not need this.
I would probably suggest that we have a nominal $25 inspection fee, and then it would be based on sales.
If it gets approved.
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think the numbers are too high. You know, the $250, you know, some people are not getting that for their unit. The numbers are just too high. So please consider that as you're relooking. It's out of reach for some people who have STRs so that they can live here in Woodstock themselves.
I agree, I think the numbers should be a bit lower, so to help people.
Okay, and Ben, you said you had a resolution?
Yeah, I have a resolution. Yeah, do you want me to start reading it, or do you want to take a look at it? It says, whereas New York State Department of the Environmental Conservation found that construction and demolition debris on Joe Carol's property on Route 212 Saugerties contained cancer-causing chemical compounds. Whereas in court transcripts from the town of Shandaken, New York Justice Court, Vincent Canigliaro, the owner of 10 Church Road, New York, Woodstock, New York, and Gina Canigliaro and Joe Carolla stated under oath that the construction and demolition debris was delivered to 10 Church Road, Woodstock from Carolla's property in Saugerties during 2019 and 2020. Whereas Joe Carolus and Gina Canigliaro pled guilty and were convicted of violating Woodstock's solid waste law in Shandaken Court in 2022. Whereas a site comprised of dumped material is a dump and violates the town of Woodstock zoning code, section 260-49. Whereas the illegal Church Road dump owned by Vincent Canigliaro contaminated the private well of a neighbor, Pam and Frank Amy. Whereas the illegal 10 Church Road dump is located directly above an aquifer and within the bounds of the town of Woodstock aquifer, which supplies Woodstock, New York with its municipal water. Whereas a chemical compound, PFOS, bound to cause cancer, has been detected in the town of Woodstock's municipal water since 2022. Whereas the health and safety of Woodstock's water is essential, and the town of Woodstock law, section 260-49, prohibits private dumps of any kind in Woodstock. Whereas 2 Woodstock council members, Maria Elena Conti and me, Bennett Ratcliffe, have called for the removal of all the construction and demolition debris at the illegal 10 Church Road dump since 2022. Whereas the Environmental Commission, led by Chair Alex Bolito, and the Woodstock Human Rights Commission, led by Chair Salvador Altambrano Segura, advised the town board in 2022 and in 2023 in written statements to remove all contaminated construction and demolition debris from the illegal Church Road dump. Whereas Woodstock Town Board members Lauren Rose, Richard Hepner, and Reginald Earls recognize the critical importance of removing the said debris with expert remediation according to professional direction. Where Supervisor McKenna, on his official letterhead dated July 12, 2024, and signed by Council Member Anula Cordes, the non-appointed acting chair of the WC, Aaron Moran, wrote to the New York State Attorney General that in addition to the potential impact to the immediate neighborhood aquifer, there is potential impact to the town aquifer. Whereas the town of Woodstock in July 2024, under Supervisor Bill McKenna's direction, submitted a motion to dismiss the Amy's lawsuit, which is a direct contradiction to the said communication sent to the Attorney General in July 2024 on behalf of the town of Woodstock. Whereas Council Member Anula Cordes also wrote in an official email to the Office of the Attorney General's Associate Director of Legislative Affairs, there is proof that the debris in whole is toxic, not just big pieces, all the small pieces. The property sits on town aquifer. Whereas the town of Woodstock has a responsibility to uphold the New York State Constitution, which considers clean water to be a human right. Be it resolved that the town of Woodstock seek to immediately settle all legal claims brought by the lawsuit of Pam and Frank Amy in the 10 Church Road illegal dumping case. Be it also resolved that the town of Woodstock enforce town law 260-49 and obtain a court order to enter the property and remove the debris from the 10 Church Road dump.
I'd like to second that.
I have a statement that I'll make after public record.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay.
Then-
Thank you, Ben.
How dare you?
What?
No, it's funny, you're right.
Rebecca Turner.
Sector of our water. Becca?
God help me, God help us.
Oh, for water now, holding the votes now.
Rebecca?
So a couple thoughts on this. So one is, I thought the presentation was wonderful tonight. It was wonderful to see a lot of different people seem to chime in together and be really helpful and supportive of each other, and a board that is somewhat divided seems to be very united. I would try to remind all members of our community, including our town board, which is a little torn on the subject of Church Road, to try and remember that we are a community and that I'm hoping that people can be civil and work together. I can disagree with some of the people on this board. You know, that you and I disagreed, including on Church Road, but I would request that everybody try to remain. And yeah, including myself, because I got a big mouth, I admit. But I would remind everybody, including, you know, our town board members and the members of the community, to kind of remain civil towards each other so that we can show a better face in the rest of America right now.
What's one symbol?
That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you, Rebecca.
And
Lisa?
She's still here?
Yeah.
Oh,
Come on up, Lisa.
Oh, I think
Oh, you can do it right there? Oh.
Yeah, and she wasn't getting up, so I thought it was just their problem. Where do I go?
Right there's fine.
Anywhere there's no microphone?
No microphone.
Oh, wait, a King song. No, I can't. Okay, I was here last week, and I was gonna sing a King song. And I just want to warn people a little more as much as I can about Humpty Dumpty here. I said, I don't even consider him really a candidate, let alone. And this is such a. Okay. I need to say it again, and Trump is a dangerous man, and he's had a lot of problems. And how he ever became a candidate is beyond me. I'm sure there's a lot of Republicans rolling over in there, sleeping up their graves. And I think I might have said, gotta get it right, Kamala Harris. I may have said the way he says it, but that was only my innocence. It wasn't trying to disparage him. So again, just this guy, this is Trump when he was young. This is his niece's book. There are other books. Okay, I'm a little nervous. I thought I was gonna have to talk in front of all those people. Thank God some of them left. So thank you, everybody, and you know, vote what you need to vote. But don't get this guy in, and we're really in trouble. We're in enough trouble as it is.
Thank you, Lisa.
Chris Bailey.
Okay, I'm here as a representative of the watchdog group, Woodstockers United for Change. And I'm announcing that we are holding our own citizens town hall on the water problems in Woodstock on October 9th at 6:30 p.m. here in this space. And nothing will be not answered. So that's the way to put it.
That, I feel the history of this town and growing up here is everyone was always very passionate about their own feelings and thoughts and issues and what felt was important. And we don't all agree, and that's okay. And I know that we get really passionate about it, but I would appreciate if we could go back to a little more decorum and the way that we treat each other without intimidation, without like going to a place and you're ruining somebody and their whole work and life and job in a small town. That kind of behavior to me is like what's been happening on a national level of MAGA, what's happening in Ohio right now. And you can be passionate and really, I feel very strongly about certain issues myself, I don't agree with everybody up here. But I also don't harass any one of these people on a regular, daily basis with intimidation. And I think we need to kind of rethink that the behavior, what's been going on in our town, and I appreciate if some of the leadership would talk to their folks about that as well and not egg it on. That would be great.
That should work both ways.
Yeah.
Jackie,
That's it.
that's it?
No, I have to go.
Can I have 30 seconds?
I have to go.
You didn't sign up, man.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
All right, Carol, I'll give you 30 seconds and then.
30 seconds, okay, the only thing I want to talk about is about 20 years ago, when we were designing the rehab of the police station. I mentioned to the architect that we needed to have a women's locker room. He did not put one on there. And he was like askance that I should even mention that. And but he did scribble something in, and we still don't have one for the police. There's one locker room, and I think one of the things we have to consider, you know, talking about the lawsuits, maybe if there was a women's locker room, Tiffany would have had someplace to do the, you know, throwing up her milk. And Phil wouldn't have had the opportunity to brag about catching Gabby along in the locker room. And I think that's something that you probably can address pretty quick.
Yeah.
People that are saying about that. I wish you would be here when they build the post office. Nobody knows what chemicals were put in there. When they built that post office, it was there was a pond, something was a wetland. And they poured so much, we don't know what, and it could be possible that has poisoned the water of Woodstock. So, you know, that's part of it, but the post office is also a big deal. So I think it's good that, you know, we do that, but, you know, I think the post office did more damage than everything else. And the other thing, I really want to find out why do we have the flags still on the streets? People are asking me, I mean, we're such a nationalistic town that we have to have the American flags. No, they don't look, but not for everybody. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, this statement is for folks in the room, and I'm going to attempt to project for those who will watch this on YouTube. Can you hear me okay? Yes. As many of you know, there's been significant discussion surrounding the 10 Church Road issue, and it's divided our town in ways that are deeply concerning. On one side, we have the DEC, that's the Department of Environmental Conservation, and our town attorneys saying that there's no evidence of an environmental hazard. Therefore, there's nothing that the town can do. On the other side, people are concerned because the dirt in question came from Saugerties, raising doubts about its safety. The challenge that the town has faced for years is that the town cannot act on laws that are unenforceable without clear, solid evidence from the DEC or another state authority. We are not in a position to ignore the guidance of the DEC or the advice of our legal counsel. We must proceed with caution and within the framework of the law. That said, I understand how important this issue is to all of us. That's why I chose to reach out to the highest legal authority in New York State, the Attorney General's office. First, I invited Attorney General Letitia James to visit our town, see our beautiful surroundings, look firsthand at our water sources, and meet the people of Woodstock. Second, I expressed the serious concerns this issue has caused in our community, how it has turned neighbors against neighbors, friends against friends. Lastly, I asked for the Attorney General's help in this matter and requested that we be included in the Saugerties case that her office brought to closure successfully. These steps represent my commitment to addressing this issue head on. I continue to be actively involved with the town and with the Attorney General's office, which has some of the best environmental attorneys in the country. I'm speaking for myself as a council member. Once I receive their guidance and input, I will bring a recommendation back to the town. I understand how emotional and how important this topic is for all of us in our community. And I will continue to work with the town, the DEC, and the Attorney General's office to ensure that we have the right people involved and the facts at hand. I will also be sharing more details with the community in Hudson Valley One through a point of view article. So to those who have placed their trust in me, thank you. I will do my best to keep you informed every step of the way. Thank you, everyone.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you all.